Hi cake friends, welcome back to Maggie Heron Cake channel, and today I want to address the question from the previous video about Betty Crocker frosting, like how to make it smooth. Like I share the tips with you there, and some of you asked whether you can freeze the Betty Crocker frosting beforehand to make it quicker so you don't have to like fridge overnight. So I tried it, and so let's go ahead and see it. The short answer is like yes, and it's a good way to go. So go ahead and freeze it. I freeze it for an hour, but I think you can just freeze it for less. So let's go ahead and see it. And at the end, you're going to see if you still have problem, like what kind of cake decorating instead of like piping that you can do. Okay, let's see it. So here's the Betty Crocker frosting that I put it in the freezer for 1 hour, and after that it gets pretty hardened a little bit. The texture, it seems to change a little bit, but it's because it's just a little bit hardened, but it's still pliable that I was able to scoop it out. And after I scoop it all out, I use a hand mixer to whisk it. So in medium speed, I whisk it, and you can see it's getting whiter, and you can see the comparison before and after. After I whip it, it's a lot whiter after I whip it, and that's the thing we want, right? And the texture is so easy to pipe as well, so that's the purpose why we're whipping it. And yeah, freezer for 1 hour beforehand really works. So now let's see the piping after that. I can see after freezing for 1 hour, the frosting is quite hardened a little bit. And it became quite stiff. So when it is stiff, it's really good for piping. And as you can see, I pipe it on a cookie, and the result is really good. It's very defined result. And you know, if you find, let's say even after freezing, that you find it's still too soft to work with, that what you can do is get a plastic wrap, saran wrap, and then put your frosting without the piping tip, because we don't want the piping tip to get cold in the fridge. Put it in the fridge, and then after that, or you know what, even like put it in the freezer, because if you want to really quick, just like for a couple minutes. And as you can see, if it's getting a little bit hardened, then you can take it out and then put that buttercream or Betty Crocker frosting, put that frosting, snip it, and then put it in a regular piping bag, and then start piping. As you can see, it's quite hardened again. So after whipping it, and then I put it again in the freezer, like it's quite hardened. So I have to like massage it quite a bit, and then like warm it up with my hand before I can pipe it. Otherwise it sort of get really hard, so it's really almost impossible to pipe. And here, once I warm it up a little bit, and there you go, it's even more defined, I find, than the previous one. So yeah, so just put it in the fridge or freezer if you want to speed it out, but remember not to freeze or cool the piping tip, because the piping tip is metal, so it's really sensitive to cold. So you just want to freeze the buttercream itself. After that, after you're happy with it, put it in the plastic container, you know, the height that doesn't smush your beautiful piping. And then this way your cupcake is not going to get dry. So the next day, let's say you pipe here the day before your event, then the next day you can just like display it. And that's it. Lastly, if you find that piping is just not your thing because you're having a hard time, the buttercream is too soft, and you hate washing all those piping tip, like the little thing and like the piping bag, like just like you're done with that, or you don't want to do it, then I want to convince you another decorating method without the piping bag. It's just using this palette knife and using your buttercream as paint. So it's called buttercream painting. So I'm going to show you next week how to paint this simplest flower with just one palette knife, which you can get in Joann or Michael's, any kind of craft store. So I'll see you next week. Yay!